Good evening, all, and thank you for joining us for another segment of the Village of Richton Park's Black History Celebration 2022, where we actually honor the contributions that African Americans have made throughout history into present to the overall culture. My name is Kenneth Jones. I am the Community Relations Coordinator here with the Village of Richton Park, and tonight I will actually be hosting the State of the Black Culture Roundtable discussion. Various topics ranging from housing, economics, social injustice, health, and also civic engagement. And tonight we have 6 residents who actually will be giving their input on these topics and also their opinions and how we can further the state of Black culture. We thought this was important to actually include our residents in this discussion because it gives our residents a chance to actually voice their opinions. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much, and please follow the Village of Richton Park.
Safe housing, access to health care, safe play areas, and quality education, of course, first and foremost.
One of the things on my mind about education, equal school access for all. You know, this school has this school has nothing. It should be, everybody should have a piece of pie, so that all our children will be able to get the kind of education they need to be successful.
I would like to see more of a focus on economics, as well as our youth, just investing in our youth more to have them more aware of financial literacy. That's very important, and financial discipline, most of all, because it's very important for our future. You have to have money to make things happen, and you have to understand how to create money and how to grow it. So I think that's very vital.
One thing I just want to add, because all of this is great, and I agree with all of it, but I think that what's so important is that we unify. I think a lot of us are very self-focused. A lot of us are really focused on our own individual families, our own struggles, and it's just really important that we learn how to come together as a community so that it's great that we want all this stuff, but if nobody's on the same page, we can't be on one accord.
Right.
And so I just think it's important that we are being intentional about building relationship, because there's not enough of that.
Take the village,
That's
going back to buildings.
That's definitely true.
I'll feed right off of that. I think having a focus on lending dollars, because the dollar doesn't move in our community often. The circulation level is extremely low, so I would like to see that. I'd like to see a redirection of our youth away from careers, not away from wrong word, but reduce the emphasis. Okay, on entertainment-based careers and re-emphasize trade-based careers, because as we look at the gaps in the structures, right, there's nobody in that building, and the entrepreneurial spirit is natural to our people. I mean, we're probably the most magnificent when it comes from saying, I'm tired of doing this, so I better come up with a better idea. Okay, and I think that part, and land ownership, I think is important for our youth. Coming back to the truth, okay, because if you plant a good seed and you water it early, you grow better than when you come back to it later. And if we can get our energies redirected, to a campus orientation of that lending. I love what we've done in Richton Park with what I refer to as the library campus that we're sitting in coming down. And how do we magnify that? To make it a place that people are naturally flowing through versus, I just drove by. We're such a commuter community back to individualized life. But at the end, our people aren't in a natural state like that. That was that confusion they put us through when they said we wasn't from here. But I'm gonna stop.
But it's actually, you all did some very good points. I definitely feel that community is key. Just even with these type of things now, talking about it, understanding what we need to do so we can move in the right direction is going to be important. So I think those are all great points and something that we can definitely focus on in the future. All right, so our next topic for the group is, what do you think about the current state of music and on social media and dealing with our younger generation? And your answer can be positive or negative. Who would like to go first?
But I'll jump out there early. I think it's positive. think that they naturally feed off of that. And I think some of the lyrics are negative, but I think the impact and the opportunity to influence them using that medium is a positive. And we just had to get into it, because I love, like, coming up, you know, being in the 70s, you had the lyrics that came on Sesame Street, and everybody memorized them. And you learned the things about the Constitution, and I really believe that that's a mechanism that we can take advantage of and continue to educate our people about our history.
I'm a firm believer that you find what you're looking for. So, I mean, social media, you have to create what you want to see. So I think that's important. That goes back to community, goes back to family, household. That should be that should be the main thing that drives our youth. So I think, me personally, I utilize social media. I watch young people on social media, and my perception of the young people that I view, they're trailblazers. They're doing things, unimaginable things that at young ages and getting younger and younger every day. So I choose not to see the negative. I can control my social media to where that is not in my presence. So I think the young people that are utilizing it the right way are going places, because they're reaching people globally. As younger than teenagers right now, and they're handling business and getting things done, and I see the benefits.
Well, I love what everyone else is saying, and I agree that there can be so much value in social media, but I think it's very important that we recognize that because there's such an emphasis on social engagement, that children are losing relationship, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of community. And so we don't know how to have real dialogue. We don't know how to, if it's not coming in the format of a like or a comment, we can't have continued engagement. And a lot of young people are suffering because if they don't have enough followers, or if they don't have enough likes on social media, they feel like they're not valuable. They feel like they're not important. And so there are so many benefits for social media, but the home, our individual homes, but our communities, these relationships are what's necessary. Otherwise, social media can't serve its intended but positive purpose, right? And so I just think a lot of young people are suffering because they're relying on it for validation rather than a source for entrepreneurship, a source for creativity, or you know, being present for the opportunity to reach the world, right? But they're going to it for what they need, when that should be something that they find within themselves.
So, question also said the current state of music. Now, these rappers, they use social media, you know, and for videos, whatever, but they do it like for the dumbest things, and they incriminate themselves while making these videos, and then it's turned around and it's used against them. I think that's a real sore spot for me right there. But why would you be dumb enough to do that anyway? Also, like the lyrics, like with rap, when they say the things that they're doing, these kids really think, oh, that's what they do. I'm gonna go do that now. So now they're going out, everybody's drinking Lane and smoking this and drinking that, you know, and that's a real negative thing there, you know. But on the flip side, like the guy said, it can be used to make a great deal of money. Like I'm saying, kids with projects, you look at and you're like, wow, this little person did this, and you made $1,000 in a week. You know what I'm saying? Of very simple, something I would have never thought of. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
No, I'm in total agreement, but music is powerful, y'all, and we have to hold our people accountable. I agree, because I'm just gonna say it's trash. I grew up listening to a lot of old school, soulful music, and even the music that's of my time, which I guess I was growing up in the 90s, like 90s R&B and that kind of stuff. I just feel like there was so much more value. You know what I'm saying? And even when it comes to hip hop and rap, it's so influential for our people. It is our culture. And I think we have to find some way to get more diverse representation, because it's not as, you know, there was a lot of people that you could go listen to if you wanted to hear a certain thing, and then you had another option. It was like, you know, if you want to hear comedy, you can listen to comedy, and it can sound different than listening to getting somebody, you know. little baby, but I had a hard time. I'm in a large group, yeah, no, but, right, a JV, but, you know, but I was trying to think more like hardcore rap, but it's like even still, there's a message. You know, I don't think there's a lot of that other than what my brother was talking about, drinking, sipping, sexting, all, you know, all the things that it's just like, these are what our people, and music, y'all, we love music. Music is our life. Music is our culture. And so I am concerned for our kids because they don't know what, in my opinion, good music is. And I know they probably won't come at me for that.
Let me feed off of you a little bit because I have 2 boys in the house. And in my day, Soul Train, okay? So my oldest is 27. And when he was born, the first 2 or 3 years, I'm watching Soul Train, and I sat there, and the camera angle started to adjust. And I said, I can't sit here and have my son at 2 and 3 sitting on my lap with me watching this Soul Train.
Right.
Now, y'all remember, for those that were around Soul Train, and I look at the magnification of that today, and there's not a single rap video that's supposedly hard that don't exploit at least 1 or 2 young ladies.
Yes.
Okay, in a way, in a manner that, and I feel blessed not to have daughters. I was born on Mother's Day, so I got plenty of women love in me, okay? But I was blessed not to have daughters. I have 2 young men. And as we talk about music, and I'm with you, I can't listen to anything that's out there right now. Very few performers in today that I can tolerate without, what did they just say? And the fact that they're such a high level of distribution is kind of like, and I'm going to be political for Trump energy. It felt the same way, and I don't know how to stop that way, but I know I turned off my TV.
Hey, can I just chime in on that? I think that's a perfect point. It goes back to accountability. At some point, the home has to dictate that. I mean, I grew up on uncensored rap music, but the way it was taught, I was viewed was, this is like a story. I took it in as information, and it steered me the right way. I heard a lot of the things, and I did the opposite, or hey, that just sounds like now I call it now and be like, man, it sounds like I was listening to audio books back then about different scenarios. So I see it both ways, but I think the accountability from home can trump that. I think home can be the most influential place. So in my household, I am the role model or the influence, no outside thing, but some people don't take that accountability. So I think it's 2 sides to it.
Yeah, and some people are not fortunate enough to have that home
Right.
accountability.
Yep.
You know, they're listening, excuse me, to this negative information that's coming through to them with no guidance whatsoever. You know, and then they grow up and they want to be like that, and they idolize rappers. As we see, they walk around trying to look like them. But you know, we got to teach our kids. It's not just how you look; it's what's up here that counts. You know.
And you tell your kids to actually listen to those lyrics, and then you ask, why is he dead now?
Yeah.
Why is he dead now?
Right.
King Von, all these Chicago rappers, King Von, King whoever, whoever, excuse me, dead. You know, and this is this is a story you're telling to kids.
I know, Tupac, exactly. I mean, some really great ones that are gone, but at the same time, you know, it's the message that's coming from a lot of rap songs that are causing these actions. It's unfortunate, but, you know, for all the guidance in the world that we give our kid, it doesn't always work, you know, like, you can sit here and tell your child, don't listen to that, or when you do listen to it, make sure you are analyzing it, you know, don't disrespect women, don't want to grow up and, you know, shoot somebody, you know. You got to talk to these kids, because if you don't, the streets will.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that with music and social media, is definitely a double-edged sword. Definitely have to find balance. You can't just take in everything and not think about the repercussions of what it could bring as well. And you definitely want to be mindful of that. You definitely want to be mindful. And of course, the main influence should be your parents. Should be you know, the values that you're taught at home. And of course, like I said, try to get as much as you can, try to get some type of positive aspect from the music, not just focus on the negativity. Because even though those guys are even the guys we spoke about today, some of them may have passed, but they also did a lot of positive things in their communities before they actually passed away. Even some of the Chicago rappers, they were known for just, giving out stuff for holidays, just giving out money just in general. So you got to keep that in mind as well. So there's some positive to it, but of course, you want to try to not let the negative side of it influence you as much as possible.
Right, and remember, that word you said, repercussions, it means so much, especially in today's time, because there seems to be a lack of it, a lack of thought given to repercussions. People are just doing things without even
Consider the consequences.
considering the consequences.
It's something to keep in mind. All right, so our next topic that we're actually going to get into is going to be, what are some things that are associated with the Black culture, in your opinion, that are myths?
Is that we're violent. They depict us as violent people from almost everything, from music to television to movies to just the news, especially everything. I mean, they will have you afraid of your own Black people walking down the street, And it's a shame. Sometimes I have to remind myself, because in the industry that I work in, I come across a lot of people who are from our communities, Black and brown communities, and we are really good people. I mean, I know this, but I wish the world would know that, because they really think that we're just not worthy of anything. They think we are, I don't know, it's like they want us to disappear by the way that they treat us. I mean, we can't have adequate housing or valued housing. I mean, why would you appraise my house different than you do the one over in Frankfurt with the same exact specifications? I mean, there's just so many things that they think of us that we're not worthy of.
Well, what I was going to add is that, I think that there's this big misconception that we all want a handout.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of off the whole lazy thing, but it's like I want everything to just be given to me. And that's so far from the truth, because what I would like is equality and equal opportunity. That's what I would like. And I don't think that that's a lot to ask for. And so I think it's really unfair. I think it's so heartbreaking, to the point of what you were just saying is just like, because of redlining, we're not offered the same opportunities or, access to the same things. And it's like, I don't want you to hand me anything, because I'm just as qualified and I'm a lot stronger and a lot,
Resilient.
Yeah, so much more than you think, right? And so I have to live strong every single day, almost though as if I'm forced into it because of the circumstances that we've been given. I will say though, I think that even within our own community, we got to stop running from our communities. We have to be willing to stay in our place, y'all. That's why I chose to stay here. We were looking for a home recently, and I chose to stay here because I see the promise here. I chose to stay here because I want more, and I don't want to do like, oh well, it's starting to get too crazy, we gotta go. We can't do that. We need to be responsible for our own. If ain't nobody else gonna do what we have to.
That's an important right there, that they don't think we can take care of ourselves. I struggle with that. And the other side is the one person defines the group. So if you're the one in that company and you're the elevated, you've taken advantage, is what they're calling it, of the opportunities that are presented because you were ready, and those few opportunities that are presented, but you carry the weight of the entire group a lot of times because one failed, and now that criticism is applied to the entire group. I think we struggle with that, which is why I love the continent of Africa, because it is so diverse and the truth is so true. Black people aren't singular, and I think that's the other myth, is that we're all liking the same stuff, and we're such a diverse community of lovers.
Yeah.
We ain't fighters, we lovers. Now, you make us have to fight, we ain't scared. You know, we didn't grow up like that. The other thing that I wanted to throw out is that we're not Native Americans. I believe that is one of the biggest myths that they've been able to put over on us. It has uprooted us from the land ownership that we've always had. There are some Africans that did arrive here, so please don't let me discredit the slave ship story. How much of it I believe, I'll smile about later. But I also believe that we were here already. And when they were corralling the people that they referred to as Indians and put some of us in concentration camps, what they call reservations, and those of us that didn't stay true to the native that escaped, okay, here we are. Because I know I got Indian blood in me, okay, but does that make me any less black? And I don't have as many slave ship stories to tell because that wasn't what was passed around my house. So that's another myth, that we all are slaves, or we all were from slaves. I believe that's another one that is worth looking into. And DNA test ain't gonna help you get there, you gotta talk to people. So back to the network and knowing our community. And I too feel in the black community, we have to invest energy and effort. And I'm excited, today is like really, you know, an important day to me because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think conversations are important now because that's pretty much how you get the ball rolling when it comes to making changes. You have to have a starting point, and it has to come from a conversation. So I think definitely 4 minutes like this are going to help start that change and then move us in the right direction.
I think a major myth is that black males aren't active in the process of parenting and child rearing, because that's, in my eyes, that is so far from the truth. Because everywhere I am, I'm surrounded by black fathers who are active, who are in some cases the lead in things that they do. So I think that's a myth that definitely needs to be busted, and that's been from the beginning of time. I think that we focus on the people who are not there, but the percentage of black males in the household is rising every year, continues to grow, and it will be one of the reasons that we will be successful going forward if we continue with that, with what's going on with black men and parenting.
One last comment, it's like we're not interested in what's going on in the world, like we're not interested in politics. We know a lot, you know, we read a lot, we know a lot of people, and it's just amazing that they don't vote, they don't do this, they don't do that, but it's a lot of people who are well versed in learning about different things that's happening in not only just our own community, in the world, and following politics and knowing how to make good decisions when it comes to voting and things like that. And not eeny, meeny, miny, mo, oh, I like that name. But we know things.
One last one, one last one, because I think this myth has to be spoken, that we can't lead white people. Okay?
Oh, that's a farce.
That's a really important one to put in play, because a lot of the opportunities, when you look at corporate America today, and I work for an organization that's focused on trying to make a difference, and proof is in the results always, right? And so, as we look at corporate, and they talk about opportunity, the things that are going on in the NFL, okay? I mean, that's right now, and it's showing through the numbers. You can't convince me, okay, on any day, that there's not a talent pool of capable African-American leaders that could run a football team.
There are
Okay?
tons.
You can't convince me of that. And I look at corporate America and I challenge them every day. And again, I'm proud to work for where I work because we can challenge. And they accept that conversation, and we do have an active program, but we ain't where we want to be yet. I'm sorry, we ain't where I want them to be.
We're not given the opportunities. We're all here. We just aren't given the opportunities, you know. I look at, you got Kwame Raoul, you got Kim Fox, you got Lori Lightfoot. I mean, I don't care how you feel about them, but they're leading and they're qualified. And there's a ton more. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I don't know if you're gonna include this part in the thing, but I will say that there is a reason that we are chosen to be an oppressed people. It's not because we don't have the ability to lead, it's because they know we have the ability to lead. Good. And it is because of that and fear that they chose to oppress, because we are leaders by nature.
Good point. All right, so our next topic that we're going to actually get into for the group is, do you feel that the African American rate of civic engagement, such as voter registration, will continue to increase or decrease in the future? I personally believe that it will increase. I'm very hopeful of that. I'm definitely encouraged every year by, at least here in our local area, the number of people who are starting to actually get involved, and especially the young people, as we continue to push the message of getting more involved in your community and voter registration and things like that, census. I think that's something that we can continue to push in the future. But I know, at least in my profession, I'm definitely seeing the increase because we do have to track the numbers. And so I definitely think that it's something that will increase in the future, but of course I would definitely like to hear the group's input and feedback on that. Would you like to go first?
As an elected official, I'll jump in real fast and say, increase, increase, increase. I think the word and the awareness within the household, we went through some stuff the last couple of elections, and it was very educational. As far as the electoral, I think the sensitivity to there is a value proposition in voting. And us trying to continue to nurture that message and seeing what's happening in Atlanta and some of the other places where, you know, paying attention to the judge side of the ballot is something that I look forward to further focus. I just don't see that.
I think it's imperative that we continue to be vigilant about voting, especially in light of the last election, major election, where all the states were challenged, and about, you know, with certain parties that are right now trying to minimize voting rights for individuals. I think it is imperative, no matter what the circumstance, that we continue to vote and always vote. I mean, you gotta think about it. Many of our forefathers lost their lives just to go vote and never got a chance to vote, but they fought for our rights to vote. And it's even more critical that we as a people vote, just in recognition of that, if nothing else.
Lord, when people say that they're not gonna vote, it's not gonna make a difference. It bothers me.
Good point.
I was able to vote at age 18, and I've been voting ever since. I don't think I've missed a time voting, even for the little things. You know, some people say, let's just vote, you know, every 4 years for the president. No, these little elections mean just as much. And I get aggravated when people say, well, it's not gonna make a difference. Well, it won't make a difference if you don't, but if this person votes, if we keep it going, it's gonna make a difference.
I think it goes back to education and community again, because when you look at the numbers of elections and you look at local elections, the numbers are always super low.
Right.
And so there's not a connection there. So if we start there with our youth, and then they can understand the importance, and then once they see results, you know, now a lot of the youth are results driven, and they have to see, you know, something that comes from the action. So I think we got to start there, and I think local elections should be very important. I think even school elections should be more important, and that should be more of a valuable learning experience to understand how it works. I think that's not stressed enough. We may have certain students who participate in it, but it's not enough, and it's not spread out to educate more.
For our next topic, we're going to actually talk about which current African American influencers do you feel are currently making a difference in the Black culture today. You can name the person and the reason why. Right? I'm going to actually start off and say, for myself, one person that I had in mind, I want to make sure I talk about this person because I think they're definitely influencing some changes, is Colin Kaepernick. I definitely think that he made some major changes, not only in the NFL, but just also too nationally with some of the things that he stood for and the platform that he started, and is still growing that platform, even though he may be past his NFL time frame as far as being active in that particular arena, but he's definitely moving in the right direction when it comes to fighting social injustices and things like that. So that's somebody that I think was definitely an influencer for today's times, but I'd definitely like to hear the group's input as well. Who would like to go first?
I go.
Okay.
Because this is a real heavy topic, Charlemagne the guy with mental health issues.
Oh, okay, let's go.
Yes, you know how, what's the matter with you? You know, when I think something's really going on in the mind, you're just acting out, you know. A lot of incidents with the police and the community, the public, because people are not mentally right, and then they run out to apprehend or whatever, but they don't assess that, okay, maybe there's something mentally wrong with this person. So I like Kaz, he's been pushing that real heavy.
Okay, I'm actually a fan of his as well. It's definitely one of the things he stands on. I think he put out a book about that not too long ago. Okay, all right, sounds good. Who else like to get their input on someone?
I'd like to talk about Pastor Michael Todd, Transformation Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Young man in his 30s, leading a multi-generational, multi-ethnic, economically, it's like all ranges of income. It's a blessing to see him lead the church from a place of authenticity. And you know, when we talk about Black community, a lot of us, whether we quote unquote live in for God, we all rely on the church, right? Because that's our village, right? That's kind of, so I just think it's so powerful how he's been able to lead as a young Black man, but also in representing the church in faith without judgment, and been giving back to the community so much. A lot of people have this misconception about church, and maybe not a misconception because it's going on, where funds are being distributed wrong. And this man has found a way to use the church's income to create a for-profit that is earning more money, so that the tithes that come in from this church that's touching people all around the world is going right back into the community, right in Tulsa where he is. But he even gifted my church in Tinley Park $100,000 this year. And it's just an honor to see so many people under his leadership, and I'm super proud of him for that. And I think if anybody's really paying attention, they can see that this is what we need.
One person that came to mind for me was Amanda Gorman, the fourth laureate. The things that she had gone through to get where she is now. I thought she would be a great inspiration to the young people. If she can do it, I can do it. And then we just have to look at the kids in the high schools that are doing things. They can be great inspirations to the other kids, you know? There's a lot of kids out there doing great things and they don't get the acknowledgement, or, you know, nobody knows about them. So we need to highlight them. We hear so much on the news about what's going wrong. Let's spotlight what's going right.
I agree. I believe influencers are everywhere. We all are influencers. But I choose to spotlight what's closer to me, more grassroots, and that's the coaches and the teachers that I'm around, or that I know that are active with youth, because that's very, very important. A lot, like we said, some of the youth don't have parents, don't have the correct guidance, and coaches and teachers are tasked with being that and have to be that full time for multiple students, and that's very commendable. I mean, my own brother, he's coached 15 years in the Park District and has made impact on kids who are grown men now, who come back and mention stories, mention things he may have said that you may forget, that coaches and teachers may forget in passing, but the students and the people that they affect don't. So those influencers are the people that I rely on to change the world, and they inspire me. So
I got a couple of them rapid fire. Killer Mike.
Killer Mike, Michael Render, and Andrew Young, and that group is there looking to establish a banking infrastructure for Blacks. And I think that's extremely important. Because if you keep having to go to them to get your money, the conversation is different.
And I think we had talked about that earlier. There's a couple other folks, Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, and Serena Williams as a group. One of the things that we're under pressure with, unlike any other people, is the media. They love us as athletes, love us when we're doing great, but if we make that bad stuff, do they tear us up or what? And don't tell them that you're not ready to perform. it is as close to a reaction to a slave as I've ever seen. And the LeBron James incident in Cleveland was probably the most blatant energy of hating someone because they chose to play the game someplace else. And then the last one I'll throw out is Dave Chappelle. I love humor, and you guys have smiled with me already, but Dave is something serious, and he's in the community, he believes in it. He just recently had a big blow up about some housing development, and just not the right answer for his area was really the point. There were other critics of it, but you know, you just have to take care of your backyard. And I mean, we ain't going nowhere out of Richton Park, so this is good. So those would be my guys.
Awesome. So, on to our next topic. We are going to discuss what do you think needs to happen to change the relationship between police and the African American community in general. Over the last couple of years, obviously we've seen a lot of things actually happen, and so I feel that, of course, there are some room for improvement. I would definitely say that, but I think we have made some recent changes when it comes to our relationship with the police, especially over these last couple of years. But of course, I would like to give you input on that. Who would like to go first?
Well, I think for one, bias training. Oh my gosh. Police officers, you know, they tense up when they come across African American drivers, let's say, or just any other incident, answering a call to a home. They automatically have these thoughts about African American men, especially, as being violent, or, you know, I gotta be afraid of him, he's big, he's a monster, you know? And they make sometimes bad decisions based on their fear. And it's so important that they be trained to get rid of those thoughts and fears, because they're hurting a lot of people by having, you know, that lack of training.
Well, one thing I say, what we have to understand is that just based in science, biologically, when we're born, we have affinity for the people that look like us, right? And we have sometimes a prejudice for the people that don't. And it's a natural response, right? But what we have to do is have more people that look like us in our communities. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have diverse staffing. What I'm saying is we can't have a predominantly white force in a predominantly black community. And we also have to make sure there are black people in white communities, because that's why they're afraid and they don't see us as authority figures. And so I would say that it's very important that we recruit more of our own people for our communities and allow, and within, I don't know, I mean, I'm not in law enforcement, but I'm hoping, I love the idea of bias training, but there needs to be more roundtable discussions within the departments from other black, it's like if we're a brotherhood, because they say blue is a color, right? Blue is a brotherhood or whatever, or sisterhood, however it goes. But we need to make sure they're having conversations within departments and saying, yo, this is, and what I'm saying is the brother talking to somebody who don't look like us that works for us that says, this is how we like it and this is not how we like it. And no, you can't do that. That don't work for us. That might work where you from, but that don't work here. And so we have to have real conversations, or they need to have within their departments, about what it needs to look like. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be the biggest thing, is make sure we're recruiting people that look like us, and also having conversations with our children that we should not be living in fear. You know, I do understand that we have to be intentional and let our kids know what's up, right? Like, you know what you look like, and this is the current state, but also know you do have rights, and we need our children to understand that and operate from the place of knowledge rather than the place of fear. And they need to have confidence when they go into places, and not like, only I gotta put my hands up. I'm gonna put my hands up, but I'm also gonna tell you I know what my rights are, and you're not going to make me feel small in this circumstance when they are faced with that.
Oftentimes, that's what gets them killed, anyway,
Right.
Unfortunately, because of that officer who wants to be big and tough.
Right.
Who are you to talk to me that way, you know?
Right.
They don't want that. I mean, I don't know how to diffuse the situation, but it does need some diffusing. And even within police stations, you see that separation and division, black, white, whatever, Hispanic, you know, they all grow with each other. And I don't even that they communicate and get on the same page with their, you know, tactics and try to have like a, I don't know, a camaraderie kind of thing as opposed to all this division, black and white. I mean, you see it everywhere, but it's really prevalent in police stations too.
And I believe that there's not so much of a fear as there is an excitement. And so I think that that has to be addressed in, you know, the pre-employment process. I believe there needs to be a higher cost for the oopses that take place. I believe that that cost should not expire in the facility that they created the issue in. I think it should follow them for their career just like any other criminal event. And again, I truly believe that the diversity of the force helps, but I think community policing, being a police force, and I have so much respect for our town and how we've adapted, you know, to the community, and we've adopted certain practices that have reduced that potential of the oops that you can't undo.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I say we need to have much more less of those in our community, because when they're talking in their community, they understand that if they shoot that man's son, that there's going to be to pay. And when they look at our sons, they don't have that same level of anxiety. And until we get them that anxious, because I would rather use that phrase fear versus excitement, but I think there's a level of excitement in some of the eyes I've seen growing up and being pulled over.
Most definitely. And I also think we need to address the fear that young people have towards police, because that's created in the household as well. And it needs to be a bridge for the gap. And that starts in the school, being visible, you know, and just connecting and kind of patching up that relationship with young people, because you think over the last 10 years with social media and everything, how much they've been bombarded with this and seen it. You have kids who just fear seeing the police or seeing sirens. They're on edge, and something needs to be done with that too, so that they can kind of be a coexistent going forward. I mean, just starting from the younger generation now, so relationships and things can be better going forward.
Right. And what I said earlier, camaraderie. I don't mean camaraderie. I mean like an exchange of information with each other. You know, educate each other. You know. Oh man, this is how we are in our community, you know, that brother is cool, he's okay, you know, all he needs is whatever, you know, you don't have to go at him like that. Respect his rights, because people, you know, individuals have rights. You have to be careful not to violate them, but like you said, they don't seem to have that fear when it comes to violating certain people's rights.
I definitely think that I'm hoping that we continue moving in the right direction when it comes to the police and African American community relationship. I know there's been some cases over the last couple of years where it may have given us a step back in the wrong direction, but I am hopeful for the future that we can continue to build on some positive things moving forward.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, the police were well respected. I don't know, I think it's probably because of all the things we've seen in the media, on television, of, you know, the killing of black men and that kind of thing, that brought the fear about from citizens, certain citizens.
Very good point.
I think they've done some really good work. They've been able to get the media coverage they need when necessary. They have the dollars pouring in. I think the Van Jones on CNN, I think he had indicated that almost every black leader in the United States has been in some way or another murdered, and it had to do with, they thought, the government, right? And he was saying the beauty of Black Lives Matter is that it's not just one individual, and it's not just black people. It's everybody pouring in interest, money, and so forth to better social injustices.
I will give them kudos on that. They've done very well to think strategically about leadership because they know that, I'm sure, that if you put one person in the spotlight, that person is the target. So they eliminated that and just, well, they do have leaders now. I'm sure the leaders, we know the leaders are known, but they kept it to where you can't pinpoint one particular person for one particular area, which is pretty smart. And that's how you keep things going. And even today, I couldn't tell you who the Black Lives Matter leader is for the South Suburban region or the Chicagoland region, which I'm sure there is one, but we probably would never find out exactly who that person is or where that person lives or what they do at their regular 9 to 5. You probably wouldn't know who that person is, but they could be standing right next to you at the grocery store, you know? So they do a really good job of that, so I will give them kudos on that.
And who the members are.
Yeah, and right, or who the court members are. And I'm sure they know who it is, but we would not know because we're not.
I mean, I've donated at the county.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I feel they raised awareness at the level. I think they activities on black spending were re-engaged. Some of them had went dormant, but the pressures of okay, well, we need our name on something now, and I think that added a little bit to the momentum. But I also feel, back in the day we had the Afro Pigs and the Pride, and so on that side again, I think that was good for our energy because as COVID and that kind of came together, we still need to cluster, and that gave us something to talk about and bring forward a little bit more information than we had probably been sharing prior to that.
It brought a lot of awareness about, and they struck a lot of bones with certain people. Now you had Blue Lives Matter. I mean, I don't think that is necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just saying they got the attention where it counts.
Anybody else has any input on Black Lives Matter? And think they're making a difference in today's culture?
I think it's making a big difference, especially with what's the sister's name? Civic.
Yeah.
The guy, my son, is always with that. They really making noise. And it's really being taken like real serious. It's not like we're all okay. That happened. 6 months later, everybody forgets about it and moves on. So yeah, I think they're like they're keeping their foot on their neck, literally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I definitely think so too. Yeah. I definitely want to again mention that I think they're doing some great work. However, there's always room for improvement in anything that we do. And of course, we're comparing them to the former guards from the past, where you can definitely see everything they had going on. There was a lot happening, and it was very visual. Whereas in their case, they're being visual as well, but they're tackling same issues, but they just add a little bit more to the plate as well. So they have to go about things a little differently. But I still think that they're a good organization to have. Any organization that's promoting, blacks and the improvement of our culture, I think it's a positive. So I definitely want to give them props. I don't want people to think that we're downplaying the movement, what they got going on, because they're doing some great things. But of course, anything can always have improvements. And I hope they continue to improve and tackle those much needed issues in our community.
Right.
Going to say that I feel if they were still, they had a chance that should actually complete a lot of their goals. I definitely think that there would be some differences right now as far as in our culture. But, who's to say how those effects would have been felt in 2022. I'm not sure, but they did some great things during that time frame to definitely push the agenda.
Being a child of the 60s, not really experiencing the adult element of that, but as a reflection back on the two different methods that they were using, I see remnants of that. There was no way for either of them to have survived. Okay, no one that was in power would have allowed for it, and so they were stunted early. I think the situation with white supremacy in those days, we were a little more afraid and a little less connected. I think now the conversation is a little more deliberate. And so, what we've learned from their efforts is, as we were talking about Black Lives Matter earlier, is we have to decentralize our leadership model in order to reinforce the fact that one is not enough. The continent of Africa has all these different languages, and Black people as a whole, we have all different ways that we communicate. We can talk that slang, and we can definitely sharpen it up and be extremely literate. So much so that they'll say, "Ooh, I thought you was a white person." And I know somebody's heard that one. Or your child speaks so well. Okay, so I think we would not have had the benefit of them being here, but I do feel that they would have touched us, and I think they still do, and I think that's why the warriors and leaders that we have on the field today are demonstrating that once again we will overcome, and by any means necessary, it's still a legitimate statement, and I'll stop there.
So I just want to, let me touch on the, if they were here. I think if they were here, things would be different. I do, we have to consider all of the changes in terms of what resources we did have available and how we did speak, but what I loved about both of them and their methods being so different is that if Malcolm X were here, our communities would be stronger because we love ourselves a little bit more. We'd be paying more attention to the family unit, and I think that if Dr. King was here, that we'd be operating in our natural place of love, because Black people are loving people, and I think a lot of us are angry, and the two of them, although their methods were different, they were necessary. And so I think that we would all have a higher element of pride if they were still here, because it's great to remember them, but we need more leaders like that. And I'm not saying we don't have leaders within our community, but when we think about our leaders that led us, when we think about Martin Luther King, and we think about Malcolm X, and we think about Maya Angelou, and we think about all these people, and now they're gone, who are those people today? And I think it's really important that not only that we remember them and their legacy, but that someone take their place. And right now it's not that. I think that I don't think that we can honestly say where's the next Martin? Where's the next Malcolm? Who's the next? And so we appreciate the people that are here, and we appreciate the people that are gone, but we need somebody else to step up. And so I think if they were still here, they would have had the opportunity to mold their successors, and there would be more. There would be more Martins. There would be more Malcolms. And
we would be less angry or have less reasons to be angry.
Absolutely.
We definitely have reasons to be
Right.
angry.
Absolutely.
But
You made me think,
No, I was just going to end with just to your point in terms of less reason to be angry, because when we see that when we stand up and actually speak that our lives are at risk, it's scary. And we're angry because we want to say something, but if I do, I'm going to have to take up, and now I risk leaving my family before I want to. Now I risk all of this, and so we have this fear, but that doesn't change the fact that we are needed, that our voices need to be heard, and that someone's going to have to stand up and take their place. So I wish that we're still here, but we're still doing good. We're still making progress, and we'll continue to do it.
Yeah, I think where we're at is where Black people are at now, is a manifestation of their dream, because if you really think about it, we can talk about our limitations, but it's a completely different world from the 60s, and the opportunities and the advantages, I think they would marvel at what we are able to do and what's available for us to do. So I think we're seeing it. I think it can always be improved, it can always be better. But I just think it goes back to what we all been saying as far as local, and we can find those Martin Luther Kings and Malcolm X's right in our community, and that's where it starts.
And I wonder if it wasn't through their death that momentum was increased too. So there's something around the next stage of a martyr, and the way that Martin in particular, the way that he went down, it galvanized the community. It really threw us, you know, collectively for a loop, and it forced a different hand. I wonder, had he not been in that moment, would he have gotten the accommodation that his brother and you know, that others accepted on his behalf? With Malcolm, again, Malcolm, he was definitely getting the attention. And I wonder what would have happened to, you know, my brothers in the Islamic side, you know, the nation, and how would they have adjusted to allow for him to move around. You know, again, I find no fault with anyone because I don't know what happened, but, you know, him coexisting with that energy based on the path that he had chosen at that point would have been very complex. And so I think there was an awakening that he brought to us, that we became more open to other religious beliefs, as well as I love the point about the family, because the truth is both of them had but two different focus points, and I really am just, I'm in awe, because I'm definitely a creature of their accomplishments, and I move very firmly in my beliefs, because I love my people first, and I love everybody else right behind me.
They actually, those deaths actually did, like I said, I guess you could say, birth some leaders during that time frame, but just were not as well known. And then, of course, they as time went on, you know, a lot of outside forces that kind of dimmed their spotlight. You know, like Stokely Carmichael, Jesse Jackson, or Eldridge Cleaver, people that was really still moving in that same kind of path, but they had a lot of outside stuff that was coming. Even the brother that was in the Black Panther, you know, Fred Hampton was another one. That was along those paths, and this outside force that kind of dimmed their light, so they didn't get a chance to really, you know, kind of pursue their goals as well, or their version of what they thought the goals were, because everybody's goals were different. So I think that they even had a chance to kind of still move along that path. It could have been some change as well, but they didn't get a chance to do that.
I always said, I coach, well, not in this season, but I'm a life coach, and I always say the women that I serve heal women, heal families, and heal families, heal communities. And that is with, but I mean, of course I say women because that's who I directly serve, but that matters for all of us. And when we begin to heal on an individual level, and we take ownership for all of our traumas, all of our past experiences, and say, you know, I am not what's happened to me, but as a result, I have a greater responsibility to serve. The problem, I think, especially if we talk in closing and about social media, is that everybody's really quick to get on the platform to be noticed. But there's a time and there's order. And so it's the people who are making the efforts to bring advocacy and all these great things. It's like, but you haven't healed. You haven't taken care of your family. You haven't done what you need to do to heal so that you can sustain when you get the momentum as an influencer, when you get the followers, because it's so easy to access this large community of people. But what happens is we are destroyed. Our mental health is overwhelmed because it's so much to take on. And so I think that what we have to remind our people is it's not about self-preservation so much so that I'm ignoring you and your experience. It's more so I need to preserve and heal myself so that I can strengthen my legacy, and now we can go out and serve our people. Now we can go out as a unit and show up and be an example for what we want everybody to see. And I think sometimes we're just doing it out of order, and we just need to be reminded that you loving you is the most, I mean, it is the foundation for which our world is going to heal. When you learn how to love yourself and do it without condition, then you can learn how to love and respect people that same way. And I think that's our responsibility right now, is teach people in our community how to love ourselves, how to heal ourselves, take care of our children, right? We can't, because that's why everything came back to community. Everything came back to, it starts at home. But if home is broken, what are we gonna do? And so we have to individually take responsibility and say, you know, my past is a part of who I am. I appreciate and I acknowledge the survival that I had to experience, and my ancestors had to experience, but now it's up to me, because we have I call myself the purpose mindset coach. You have to have a purpose mindset that is greater than me, It starts with me, but it's greater than me, and I can't serve my greater purpose until I'm here.
Yeah.
We are so strong as a people that if we do the healing, I can forgive you. I don't need that. I don't necessarily need that. I've healed. I'm good. I'm straight. And my kids are good, and my legacy is healed. And now we're serving our community and showing up the way we're supposed to do. And so now I'm already pouring my finances into my community. I'm already showing up and volunteering and doing the things that I need to be doing. I don't need you to give me anything. We can recognize it all day, but at the end of the day, you're going to acknowledge my strength. You're going to acknowledge our community, and that is how our world will heal, when we take responsibility for our own healing. And it's not about what somebody gives me. You don't owe me an apology, because it wasn't me. You did that to my ancestors, but I don't have to live in that anymore.
I don't know.
I add one to the back of that. It's not just allow me to have what I have, stop taking from me.
That's right.
So I don't need a reparation.
Right.
Okay, you can take my name off the list. I don't need a reparation. What I ask for is stop taking from me. Okay, normalize, provide that equity. Okay, we were talking about the school systems and how we don't get the funding because of the way that they created the tax base and how they, you know, again, this was a system I had nothing to do with, but this is the system that we all got to live with, right? No, they could change that.
Well, I
Man
think we're
created it,
forced
man
to
can
do
change
that.
it. So
Yeah.
for me, I would prefer that the takers step back. Okay, stop chewing on us. Okay, leave the meat on my plate and let me handle my plate. And if I want to come over there and get some of what you got, I'll come over there with my funds to get it. But just stop burning down when we grow and we. So that to me is I don't want to worry about that anymore. Okay, I do concern myself with that. I'll be honest with you. I sit here and I think about Richton Park and I say, wow, what if they decided that we became too big? Would they burn Richton Park like they burned Wall Street?
I'm sure they would, which is why I say that's how we need the help.
But just to have that thought in America, that they would do that.
They
And who are
would.
they? And I'm like, I want to get rid of that. I don't want to have that fear for my next generation.
That's why you need the healing.
But
They're
I
not
don't
healed.
want them to be trying to scrape money from people that don't want to give it to me because I'm okay right now. Okay, I'm okay right now. What I want them to do is leave us be, let us continue to
It's
flourish.
not gonna happen.
Okay, and that's the solution. That's the end game for me.
Right. I
Is
can
let us
see that.
cohabitate.
Those are some good points.
Okay.
Very- I think that conversations like this need to be had a lot more of. I'm really excited. This is the first one that we've actually done with residents here in Richton Park, so that's been great. You know, I think we tackled quite a few different subjects this evening, from all taking an hour out of your time, or an hour and a half now out of your time to even come out and do something like this that's going to be beneficial to the community. So I appreciate it. I'm sure the village of Richton Park appreciates it. And I'm looking forward to getting this out to the mainstream public, so everybody can see it and start more conversations like this. I'm sure it's something else that we can continue to do in the future. And I also want to, again, thank all of our figures throughout Black history, or Black history from past to current, who have also helped make these changes and even given us opportunity to do this. Because you think back in the day, they didn't even have a chance to even do this, so we can actually get out to the public. It was just something, you know, you would do within your home or within your office or within, you know, with your friends, and that was it. And you get a chance to get out and let other people know that there are other like-minded individuals that care about the community and that want to see and implement change, and that's important. So I definitely want to thank you all for being a part of this and appreciate it.